getting alcohol-free ready to travel to Goodwood. She's already been weighed and jogged up. Cassie's just putting the travel boots on that we travel them in just to protect their legs in the box. Do you want me to hold her while you do it?
Oh, yes, please.
And now Cassie is just plaiting the bottom of her tail, and then she'll put the tail bandage on just to protect her tail from being rubbed in the horse box. And alcohol-free is going to be loaded last today, so we're just waiting for the signal that she's ready to load. Alcohol-free doesn't like everyone, but she loves Cassia. And she also loves Winterwatch, who is her next-door neighbour and bodyguard and best friend.
Now, can I video you?
And he is also running today, but he goes to Sandown this evening.
You going to win too? Yeah, yeah. Good, I'm so glad you're so sure about that. Anyway, Alki will be safely at Goodwood, so you don't have to stress about him.
Right, good luck everyone. We'll let you know about riders later, okay? So we'll do a 3 and a 2, but we'll ring you later. Okay. Thank you, good luck.
You guys just cantering, Steve, if you leave.
Waiting for second lot to come up here and cross the road, and then they'll come past us before they go up to the collecting ring before they do their work. It's quite an exciting work morning because this time of year some of the later developing 2-year-olds we start really getting going with, now that there are 7 furlong and mile maidens in the calendar for them to run, and now that they're physically developed enough to start cranking things up a bit. And so we've got some really nicely bred and nice looking 2-year-olds who we're just starting to ask some questions of. It's also a lot of their, might be their first time on the grass, so a lot of them are working in trios but with an older horse as the 4th one in the set, leading them onto the gallop and basically giving them a bit of a lead and instructions where to go. But some of them will still be pretty green and inexperienced, but that's fine, they're here to learn, and that's part of the process. So we've got an assembled group of dedicated work watchers here. We haven't actually used this gallop for a while because it had some mole damage and some chafer grub damage. So not only have very few of the horses been up it, quite a few of the riders won't have either. That clump of trees in the middle of that shot is a collecting ring, and as you can see now the horses are coming out of the back of that and they do a big loop and then come on to the gallop. This is the first set up, an older horse leading a trio of 2-year-olds. Just the lad at the back has got a bit tired, but otherwise they've done that reasonably well. And another set, an older horse leading a trio of fillies this time. And this is actually Belloc, who was meant to run yesterday but pulled out of the ground. He's having a lovely time leading a couple of middle distance bred 2-year-old fillies up the
enjoying
grass.
this as much as the older horses.
So we had a couple of errors of course there, where one trio of youngsters decided they'd rather do an about turn and head back to the collecting ring. But in the end we got everyone up the gallop and safe and sound, and they will have all learned a lot from that. This is a really important part now where the riders are giving their feedback to Andrew on how they felt the horses went, and he'll check in with them again when they get back to the yard to see if anything's coughed or lost a shoe or had any other issues. As you can see, there's a really good covering of grass on the gallop, and it's taken that very well.
Some good memories flooding back. Going on there. Yeah. Any catch, lads?
So we may have had a great day at Goodwood, but work continues at home, and I am doing some formwork and trying to decide where we should run Fantelope. She's got 3 entries in the coming days. So the first thing I do is print off each of those races like this. And then I look and see firstly where the other horses entered have alternative entries. And I use an amazing extension to the Racing Post website designed by a guy called Oz Wedmore, who's a recent Flying Start graduate. And that immediately brings up, just on the one screen, rather than clicking through, all the other entries that those horses have. And I then go through and I write them onto the sheet that I've printed out. So I'm writing out this first horse has been declared to run at Wolverhampton on Friday. And then I fill out in the right hand side any alternative entries of the rest of the field. The next thing I do is go through all of the horses and write a little assessment of their form. Or if they're unraced, I do a little summary of their pedigree. And I then highlight the horses that I think are the dangers in the race in yellow. If the race is oversubscribed, I will also note whether it's got a preference to divide into 2 races. And I'll also just put a quick note on what the ground is and the forecast, because that's another consideration where we're deciding where to run the horse. I'll then repeat the exercise for the other 2 races in which she holds entries, and then we'll have all the information that Andrew and I might need when it comes to declarations time tomorrow. So this morning we scoped a couple of horses. This is one of our vets, Luke, and he's just inserting the endoscope up the horse's nostril, and it then goes down into the horse's windpipe. We might scope horses just before they run routinely, as is the case with this horse, or if they've coughed or made a noise in their exercise or worked below par, for example. Luke will be looking for any mucus, any inflammation, any evidence of infection, any tonsillitis, things like that. You can see that the horse has got what we call a twitch around its muzzle. That's just on temporarily while we scope the horse to make sure that the scope goes in the right place and the horse doesn't move his head too much. He's scoped clean, which is great. This filly we are scoping because she's due to run soon and she coughed a couple of times after exercise. But she too scoped clean, so she probably just got a little bit of kickback from the surface that made her cough immediately after exercise. You might be able to see a little white tube that's going in along with the endoscope. That's in case we need to do what's called a tracheal wash, which is where the vet takes a sample of any mucus in the windpipe and it gets analysed so we know what are the appropriate antibiotics to use, but obviously that wasn't needed here. So this is what's called an overground scope, and here the little camera is inserted up the nostril and it just sits at the entrance of the throat and then links to kit that's carried on the horse's body, which transmits to a screen monitored by the vet. And it enables the vets to see what's happening with the horse's breathing apparatus whilst they're on the move. Sometimes you'll find that a horse might flip its soft palate or collapse one part of its larynx whilst it's being exercised, but you wouldn't see that problem on a standing scope. And some of these problems can be performance limiting and can be corrected by surgery, or the vets may advise the use of a cross nose band or a spoon bit or some other similar piece of kit to help the horse whilst it's exercising. She looks fascinated by it.
She's watching as well.
So this is what the horse's throat looks like at rest, but it'll move a lot when they're actually in fast work. So that's the water pump in that pouch?
That's a water pump that flushes the end of the scope as we're...
Okay, so if she gets some mucus on it, you can just clean that. Yeah. So Will just ride the horse as normal, do a couple of canters, one slightly stronger, and then the vet Mark will monitor the screen as the horse is exercising, but then review it all later and do us a report. So, Michelle, could you just tell us what you're doing here with Oodle Alley?
I'm just giving him a little bit of a massage, a bit of a rub down. We see them quite regularly. Often I'll see runners before they run, but quite often, you know, some of these regular boys that are, you know, running often, I'll see them every week or every other couple of weeks. Just ironing out any knots, finding any areas of tension, just loosening them up, just like any normal athlete would have a pre or post race or post match if they're, you know, humans obviously. Just a loosening up, checking that everything is in as good a condition as it can be before they go off to the races.